Hi, folks. Welcome to another edition of GeekChat. We are GrownAGeeks, and today we're going to be talking about Agatha All Along. Warning now, this is a spoiler review. We will be discussing the entire season, and we would like for you to put your thoughts on the season down in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe. Follow GrownAGeeks everywhere you can. But let's jump right in. Joining me today, we've got RG Cashmere, Agent Mulder's poster. How you doing today, man?
I want to believe. I wanted to believe.
Wanted to believe. All right. Right here on the end of the row, we've got Teresa, the High Priestess. How you doing today?
I am well, thank you.
That is wonderful. Just below me here, we've got Miss Brandy. Insert cool nickname. What's going on, Brandy?
Hey, I apologize for what I said earlier. And we'll leave it at that.
All righty. And joining me as always, Jeffrey JPNT17. What's going on, man? All right. So we are here to talk about Agatha All Along. And the season is completed. One full season of the story of Agatha. We've got some backstory. We found out more about the Witch's Road. We know everything. We know who the teen is. And everything's been revealed. At the conclusion of this series, the very first thing that comes to my mind is this series worked so well. Despite it being tied to WandaVision, it worked out perfectly as a standalone entry into Marvel's television series. Disney Plus is where you can find it. And you really only have to watch WandaVision. But if you didn't watch WandaVision, I still feel like you could have gone into this show and just enjoyed this show for what it was. And everything was self-contained. The story was right there, and they explained everything you needed to know on screen. So there wasn't a lot that needed to be deciphered or figured out. You didn't have to do a lot of backlog. Everything was given to you. And I think that's one of the things that made this show so well, was that it was a self-contained entry into the Marvel franchise. It's just a great part of the MCU, and it was from one of the most liked characters from WandaVision. Catherine Hahn did a fantastic job and really gave us something to look forward to in watching Agatha Harkness. A multi-layered character who wasn't as one-dimensional as she kind of came across. And I think as the season played out, we really got to see what motivates her, what drives her, and what makes her such an interesting character. Those are my thoughts initially. I think that's why the show worked so well. But apparently, everybody didn't seem to agree with that. And I'm curious. Could you give us a summary, RG, of what for you did not work, or why wasn't this a great show?
So the quick and dirty on my feelings on Agatha is I just didn't like the tone of the show. I never knew what the tone of the show was going to be. I wasn't sure if it was supposed to be like, are you trying to be scary and serious, or are you trying to be a comedy? I don't know. I just don't know how to feel about the show. Like, I have no idea how to feel about the characters. I'm trying to get into them, but there's obviously no real deep character development with all the other side characters that are in the show. They're kind of in there to like serve a purpose, make a couple of quick witty comments, and then boom, then stuff happens. But I wasn't sure whether or not it was supposed to be for kids, or is it supposed to be, lighthearted, or or is it dangerous? I just couldn't get I couldn't get into it. I finished that show for work. Let's just say.
Okay. All right. Well, fair enough. Not everything is for everyone. So, I can't really say that those feelings are not accurate. If that is how you felt, that's how you perceived, and that's what you got from the show, then maybe there's some areas where they could have improved and made, had a clear vision. No pun intended, I think that they were all of those things. And that's one of the things that made it great, was that it did kind of change. There were different trials, different characters, and different episodes focused on different people. So the tone was kind of moving and it had to adjust accordingly. Teresa, you kind of nodded your head when I said it was all those things. What do you think made this show work so well?
Well, I nodded my head because you kind of verbalized what I was thinking when RG was speaking, and he said he couldn't really get if it was supposed to be scary or if it was supposed to be serious or if it's supposed to be funny. And I'm thinking the whole time, well, why can't it be all of? And apparently it can because it was, and that's actually the kind of show that I like. Because if you've paid any attention to me at all, I don't like comedy. I don't like falling down slapstick comedy. I like my comedy to be infused into other like feelings, into the drama and into the horror. You have people who come in and they serve as the comic relief and they make some quips and they kind of break the tension a little bit. I like that. So that I enjoyed that about Agatha. I think the quips and the, Agatha being really unserious about herself was refreshing and made it interesting to me. That's the thing that I like about a lot of what goes on in the Marvel universe. You have kind of a serious situation. You're going, Avengers are going to save the world or whatever, but you got to drop a quip every now and then. You got to have a little Tony Stark, Steve Rogers banter back and forth to break the seriousness of the mood. That's just what I like. And also I like witchy stuff. So I was ready for all the covens and the witches and the spells and stuff. So I was drawn in by that. I very much enjoyed Agatha All Along. Having discussed it with some other people, I obviously did not pull everything out of it that they did, because I know how my mind is. I'm not going to catch all the Easter eggs and stuff on the first viewing, but I just enjoyed it for what it was. I laughed, I think, when I was supposed to. I jumped probably when I was supposed to, and I was entertained. So
all the signs of a good show. Was I entertained? Yes, I was. So I can definitely agree with that. Brandy, we initially wanted to discuss this, and I wanted to make it a point to be sure that I had you on the show when we decided we were going to talk about Agatha All Along. What do you think made this show work so well? What did you like most about the show?
I'm controversial.
Okay.
Because I kind of feel both of Teresa and RG.
Okay.
I do feel like the pacing was a bit uneven, especially in the beginning. It took me a while to get into this world. Because initially I was like, is this supposed to be campy or is it I don't really know. Is it going to be like WandaVision, which is more serious, or is it? I didn't know the tone, and it took I want to say maybe up to episode 4, I think, before I could get into the rhythm of what was going on. But once I did, once I understood kind of that once I could trust the writers that they weren't just doing random things, that they weren't just throwing things out there, because at first it felt like that, and then you get to a point in the series where you're like, oh, all of those random things matter. And I think that is the point where I jumped on board. And I was okay for the rest of the series, even though I thought the ending was a little flat. It was a little flat for me. But overall, I did enjoy it. I would like to see more. I think I like the characters. I'm just kind
maybe some more. I know I'm with you.
Maybe more, but give me more. If you're going to give me a second season, give me more of all of the things that I liked.
Yeah, and that is definitely going to be one of our talking point. Second season, should they? What would we? We'll definitely get into the endings specifically.
But I will say I love Catherine Hahn. She brought me into the show. I was like, okay, I'm on board. I like her a lot. I think she carried the show well. I think that she told the line between wacky and crazy and mean. I think she does that very well. I love the secondary characters, especially Patty Lupone, and I like the story overall. Like I like how they pulled it together, and I like where the story is going. So
Yeah. Okay. Wonderful.
that's it.
I can definitely see, based on your statements, why you would be of two minds about the show, and I think that's a fair assessment. It did kind of have some turbulence at the beginning, and then it did get into a very like clear sky, smooth sailing. So yeah, I can absolutely agree with that, and I think that is fair. And that could be, and don't let me speak for you, RG, but is that kind of where like you never got to the smooth sailing? It felt a little bumpy the whole ride.
It did. That was the thing. The pacing of the show was always off for me. I mean, they did wrap things up. Like
Okay.
obviously they, as far as the point of the show and the plot of the show, I didn't feel like there were plot holes or they didn't explain certain things. I think they did a good job with the lore. I definitely love anything that has to do with witches and was really looking forward to it. But it was just, I think what it was is, yes, they did all of those things, the funny, the campy, the attempt to be scary, but they did none of them good enough. Like all of them were touches, and if the humor was for you, then you got it right. There were some things that were funny. There were some things that was like, you're trying a little too hard. So
Okay.
but then so that was the thing. It was that I couldn't. How was I supposed to feel at this moment? Like, do you want to keep going with it? Like, am I supposed to be like, oh yeah, we're having a good time? Okay, no, you're gonna die. All right, I guess. Do I care? I don't know. So that was the issue that I was having with it. It's just kind of pick. I'm not necessarily saying pick a lane. I'm not saying pick a lane. It's just spend enough time in that lane to keep me interested in why you're in the lane. So that was how I felt.
All right. I think we could probably, as we get into maybe some favorite scenes and things like that, we might be able to explore that a little bit, or maybe I can speak to that from my perspective as to how I think that works. Because I can understand where the turbulence comes from and how the pacing issues might be present, but I also think that those are story elements as to why the pacing is off like that. And it's as you get deeper into it and more becomes clear, it starts to get a little easier because even for the characters, they start to see what's what and what's going on. Jeff, your thoughts. What do you think made this show a good show, or do you believe it was a good show? I think at this point I have to just ask because I can't assume that everybody liked it. What did you think of Agatha All Along? Was it a good show, and if so, what made it good? If not, what kept it?
I think it was a really solid show. I had some of the pacing issues at first. I think because it really needed to be a music. Like most of the things that we see that have all of those elements in terms of like horror, comedy, drama is tied in a nice little bow with like music. And the fact that this had it in the beginning with the Witch's Road song and kind of deviated away from that, it kind of did create this weird kind of mishmash of genre where you kind of were like, so are we coming back to this song anytime soon, or what it was the deal with that. I think though that the way that they explain why and how everything was happening, not the very very end, but like the first like ending,
Right.
I think that wrapped everything up like beautifully in terms of making all of the misstep in the pacing. It made me understand why that was happening once I understood like what was really happening, like, and I mean, I guess we can like get into it, but I think that Catherine Hahn's skittishness, which is like very different from her character in WandaVision, who, although she didn't know what was going on, she still was like in control enough to be like calm about how she was like figuring things out. But if you kind of watch her behavior on the road, you're like, why is she like being so weird? Like she doesn't know what's going on or what's coming next. She's the only witch who survived the road, but she's surprised by everything that's happened, and she's the like most off kilter one of us all. So it's like it's supposed to feel off because like we don't know what's going to happen. Now that doesn't mean people have to enjoy that the way that that was employed or used,
Right.
but I found the execution of that to be interesting, and I think the way that it paid off and how it paid was enough for me to kind of say, okay, like I'll accept this feeling weird because it's supposed to kind of feel weird. I kind of am curious to go back and do a second watch, like knowing everything that I know already.
And I've done one, and I can, yeah.
But I do think that that's a bold move for a show to assume people are going to go back and rewatch. And I don't necessarily always like that. Kind of falls in like my like M. Night Shyamalan. Every movie has a twist thing where it's like, well, if I know there's a twist, there's not really a twist because I'm just waiting for the twist. You know what I mean? And I think for this,
you want a real twist.
The twist was like the first twist was dope, but then like this, it had like 3-4 endings, and like a couple of them were good, and a couple of them were like, I don't really care about so much, but okay, cool, whatever. Like y'all wrap up whatever y'all feel like y'all. I think the acting was amazing. I think there were some very, very standout episodes, especially the wasn't it Lupone?
Patty Lupone.
Patty Lupone. I didn't want to be disrespectful, but
The
Patty
legend.
Lupone, her episode, you know, chef's kiss. Like time travel and time hopping is a very, very difficult thing to do, and I feel like they've pulled that off just about as flawlessly as you could pull something off in that like short of a time span. I thought that the fact that there were real stakes, you know, you don't really see, like, you see people die in Marvel, but like you don't really see a lot of like main characters on a show, like part of the main ensemble. They don't do a whole bunch of dying in Marvel. So I think that was also an interesting shift as well, for Marvel to have a show where it's like, okay, we really don't know. I expected my girl Deborah Jo Rupp to pop back up. And it's like I got to episode 4 and I was like, oh, she
really gone.
Oh,
she's gone.
Y'all wasn't playing. And honestly, I think that's kind of what you know, when we look, like, it's very interesting how now as we begin to watch shows, ever since, and it's kind of like, I guess, the Game of Thrones, I'm noticing more and more TV shows and movies are jumping right in and just taking people out. And they do it sometimes just for shock value. Sometimes there's an actual like story element to it. But it's one of those things where like you may be coming to a show to see a particular person. They're there for a moment and they're out in the first 10 minutes. And now you're like, well, am I going to stick around? But maybe how they went keeps you interested, and they were there long enough to get you hooked. They baited you with that, but they managed to actually hook you. And now you're in the show despite your person being gone. And I think Game of Thrones is the first one to do that and do it successfully. 7 seasons worth of doing it. And it kind of got to the point where it was like, don't get to liking anybody because the whole episode will be about them. And the next episode, boom, 5 minutes in, they're out. That's it. They're not coming back.
It's like in sports when the owner be like, we give this coach 100% our vote of confidence. You getting fired, my boy.
It's whenever the soldier showed you his picture of his girlfriend, I got this girl waiting for me back home, man.
Oh yeah.
And I can't wait to see you, man.
I mean, you might as well have on a red shirt right there. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like,
we're gonna have a farm. No, you're not.
Right.
And leave the picture where the other dude can find it, so he can go.
There you go.
Go tell her for you.
So he can take your dog tags back to her and then knock her down in your honor.
Right. But you know what? I think this is probably the best time to get right into mentioning Patty Lupone and her episode. We can go around and discuss. Jeff, let's go ahead and start with favorite characters or favorite scenes. What part of the story was your favorite, or who is your favorite character? What were the highlights for the show?
I think that I'm really glad the black lady survived. I appreciated that. You know, shout out to Sashir Sameda, SNL legend. Well, not legend, but SNL alumni.
There you
know,
go.
She took. I mean,
let's not boost that up.
she did them a solid. She did them a solid.
Yeah.
They just needed somebody in there who wasn't gonna cause problems. She did her thug thizzle, and now she's flying away, and she about to be in another show or a Marvel movie, showing up somewhere doing something.
Yes.
So,
Absolutely.
but I also like that. I appreciated about her character that she was like talking her shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, even though she didn't have her magic, she would be the first one to speak up and be like, "This is crazy." And I think like so many shows cast black characters that don't do things the way black people would do them.
Because they have black characters, but they don't have black writers.
Right. And so whoever it was, whether it was her going to the on-set person or however it was done, just be like, look, we're gonna have a black person going here. Like, I get she's a witch, but this is gonna cause questions. This is gonna cause problems. If
it
Agatha
wasn't
talks
in
to her like
abrasive
this,
way,
right?
or like
but it's
a
like if Agatha,
stereotypical way.
It's like if Agatha pops off to her, she gonna pop. It's never gonna be this like Agatha is just like this, and like she not scared of Agatha because she knows what Agatha is. And like, you know, the old white lady deals with it in the old white lady way where it's like, oh, you know, whatever, you know how it is. What are you gonna do? And she's just like, nah, I'm not with that, player. Like, be like, watch your back. Like, she telling people watch their back, and like that's so accurate into like, I just feel like bringing things to life and being inclusive in that way, not in the way that like RG hates, where it's just like, yes, I'm like we're making it so that like we're ultra platforming the womanness and not the fact that like we're putting this person in this character because we feel like they're the best person to play the role, but we're also going to have them play the role in an authentic way. Versus like, okay, yes, you cast this black person and you're like telling us that, but like you're not allowing that role to show like any sort of an authentic experience of like what it means to be like that. Right. So I really appreciate, like, I feel like across the board with most of Disney's characters, they do a pretty good job of that culturally. So even though most of the black people in the Disney universe and MCU have been from a made up place, you know, what they made, you know, I didn't hear no Africans being mad about it. So, you know, you did your thing.
Somebody took time to research.
Yeah. So I think like that was my favorite thing, just seeing like black people in the Disney universe act how black people I know act. And it's just like, ma'am, I get it. You don't have any powers either. And if we need to like start moving furniture, we can do that.
Yeah. Like at this point, we're eye to eye. How do you want to handle this?
Right.
We can handle this like ladies, or we could get into some witch shit. Like however,
right.
and that's really kind of how it came off. And I certainly appreciated that. Brandy, favorite character, favorite scene.
It's hard for me. I enjoyed a few characters. Of course, I really like Catherine Hahn, and I don't know why the first time that it occurred to me that that's why she was acting so crazy is when Jeff said, because and I know this, I watched the entirety of the show. I got it at the end, but for some reason I just didn't connect that until you said that just now. Like, that's why she was being so erratic and weird and jumpy and scattered. And you would think that that would be common sense, but I was just like, she's just crazy. I don't know. She just, you know.
Yeah, it's like from the moment that door appeared in the basement, she ain't know what the fuck.
Right. And it's like, it just, I don't know why. And like I said, I watched the entirety. I know that at the end, but anyway, I did. I really enjoyed. I like the Patty LuPone episode. Is my favorite. Lilia's episode is my absolute favorite. I liked it so much. I wanted another episode of her. I wanted to see
Yeah.
like what this was about because it's like a never-ending circle. Like she just kind of keeps going around and around, and I don't know. I enjoy a good usual suspects moment. So the end where he's looking around and he's realizing that, oh, wait a minute, these things are familiar because I'm the one who did them. I thought that was very interesting. His character, I mean, I get it. I get it, but I can't be like, oh, I just loved the teen. Good
Not
old
for
Billy.
us.
I liked his story.
Anybody could have been the team. I don't.
Right.
Yeah.
I liked his story. I like where this is going. I like, his history and things of that nature, sure. But if I was to be like my favorite characters, um, I loved
He felt like
Alice.
when kids try to chime in on the grown folks conversation at
Yeah,
Thanksgiving.
a lot
It's
of the
like,
time,
man,
yes. No,
that
It's
shit
your
was
and then
first
to
time
find
at
irritating.
out
this
he's the
table,
one
and it's only
running
because
the
there's no
show is
space at the other
crazy.
table. Yeah.
Right. I loved Alice. I was really sad when she died. But I
Yeah.
loved her character and her backstory. I really liked her episode. And I loved Audrey Aubrey Plaza as Rio.
Yeah.
Now she's one that I'm like, I get it. Uh um
Yeah.
She's frightening.
Yeah. She's
um
she's
She deserves a
I
safe word.
I loved her character from the very beginning. I liked her as coming in as the cop and being very like, what's going on. I loved her tenderness and like the softness of death. Like I was watching that like, oh no, I get it, Deadpool. Like totally Thanos. Yeah, no, I get it.
yes.
I liked the makeup, like when she turns and it's like the skull, and I was like, more of that, please. I enjoyed that, and I loved yeah. So, but the Patty LuPone episode and the episode explaining Agatha's story are my two favorite.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's and I'm with you on that one. So I'll dive into that one. Keeping it in the order. Teresa, favorite characters, favorite scenes.
Favorite characters. I don't know. I don't know about favorite characters. I think I enjoyed the whole coven.
Okay.
Mostly all of the ladies of the coven because the teen did get included there towards the end. But really, all of the ladies of the coven, I enjoyed all of the trial episodes.
Yeah.
Just how they had to kind of escape room, figure out what was going on, and figure out how to stop it.
Yeah.
And get to where they open the door so they could get out or whatever. So I enjoyed all of that. Of course, I enjoyed my black girl, making it to the end and being able to fly off into the sunset or whatever, because we don't get that a whole lot.
Right.
But I think my favorite moment really, because and people like to be really judgy, especially with the with social media. It's kind of frustrating sometimes because people are so judgy and just so mean, and I'm sitting there like, what? Shut up, mind your own business, don't worry about why other people do stuff. Like people judge when you have to use subtitles and when you don't or whatever. I don't care, and I'm like, y'all are talking about how the Patty LuPone episode and how the time travel and we're over here, we're a young girl, and we're over here, we're an old lady, and how it kind of goes back and forth. That just confuses the fuck out of me. I don't know what's going on. I don't know how to put it in order. I'm just confused. That at the end though, when I look back, it was masterfully done. But while it's going on, I'm like, I'm getting a headache.
It's like, wait a minute.
Right. Like, weren't you 12 a few minutes ago? But anyway, so I can't say that that's like my favorite. Although I do appreciate that it was done well. My favorite moment was at the end when I realized that the little boy basically just made up the Witch's Road. He made up the song. I'm sitting there and she's like helping him finish off the song and everything. I'm like, wait a minute, he made it up. It's not a real thing at all.
Yeah.
And then I'm going back and I'm realizing that after he was gone, she took the song and she put together all these covens and at all these different points in time. And then she like, oh, you guys are terrible. You're not good witches. That's why it's not working. And she steals their power. All because the little boy made up this song. None of it was real. And see, I don't know, maybe I'm kind of simple-minded and
No, that's
but you know, when it can click like that for me, and I'm like, hey, that's gonna be my favorite moment. So that was my favorite moment.
okay. RG, was there a character that you liked? No, just
Like, no.
did you have a favorite character, or was there something?
No.
Was there a favorite scene? Was there something that did stand out as a plus?
Like the end credits.
There you go. I love
mean,
that
hey,
Disney logo
sometimes-
flash. Next
What did you
episode.
like most about it? It went off. I mean, hey, if that's what it is, that's what it is.
So here's the thing with ensemble cast, the issue that I have is like the issue that I've had with most recent series. You can't have that many people and have 9 episodes, right? You can't. So I don't have a favorite because you didn't give me enough time to develop a favorite. You keep giving me these glimpses of people, and here I'm gonna spend 10 minutes on her backstory and her mama a musician, and oh she missed her mama, so something happened to her mama. I don't know what happened to her mama, so I don't really care. Okay.
You don't care for subtext at all.
Right. It's not about substance. It's you want me to do the writing for you. No, I'm not doing the writing for you. Right? Like I don't want a show to require me to have to go, oh yeah, if you carry the I and then you kept, and then you put this here and do cosine, use the cosine. I'm not doing all of that. I don't want to do all of that.
And that's fair. But to that point, and this is probably where we may have a little bit of a disagreement. I don't feel that a character like Alice, great character, she literally served her purpose. If you spend a full episode watching her as a little kid and you put more emphasis on the mom and the writing of the song and you do too much backstory, now you're going to be bored because that's information we don't need. It's not relevant. It doesn't matter. The song exists. We find out what the song is for and what it means. And ultimately for Alice, for example, her story is the generational trauma that she figured out and was able to overcome in that moment.
That's awesome, Doc. Thank you. Here's your call. I'll put a quarter on your bench on my way out, but I don't want to do all that shit. That's what I'm talking about. Do you see what you had to do to make sense of all of that?
No. What I'm saying, I'm stating, that is
No.
exactly what was on the episode.
No, I got you.
And I don't.
What I'm saying is this.
Truthfully, I don't think there's anything else that you would need to get, because if you end up with, now I'm all for like 22 episode seasons of stuff, because we're getting to a point where like, yeah, we're running out of stuff to watch. We got to wait for a new show to come out so we have something. And if it's 10 episodes and it drops all at once, well, that's a weekend. So I'm with the idea of longer series and more episodes and fleshing things out. But at the same time, we don't want to get bogged down with details that are just there because
it's not details.
We have these.
So it's not my thing is not about to have enough detail for me to, to fill up lore. It's that person has to have enough screen time and be in enough situations for me to care when something happens to them. I can understand that she served her purpose. I understand what her purpose was. I understand her backstory, and I understand summing that up. And within the point of the story, yes, she served a purpose, and I get it. But I don't have any feelings for her when she dies because I didn't have enough screen time with her and who she was as a character, other than you are this type of witch here to fulfill this type of purpose and to give us a little bit of backstory on the song was recorded by your mother, right? Which we wind up finding, later is, hey, it's just a whole made up song. It's a made up song now that, from back in the days. But I said all of that to say the reason why I didn't have a favorite character is simply because there wasn't enough time devoted to each individual character for me to develop I really, really like this particular one. They didn't stand out. Now, I like the chemistry between all the ladies. I definitely felt like they had good chemistry. The actresses were all fucking awesome. Like they're all great actresses, right? Like Patti LuPone, her episode is like everyone is saying that time travel, the way she handled it, the way she went from coherent to, lost in time. She did it absolutely perfect. She's a veteran actress. I expected her to hold that down. Like she did a great job with that. Aubrey Plaza was like wasted. Like Jesus, I wanted a little bit more of her. You know what I'm saying? I wanted a little bit more of her because I never felt like she was an actual threat to the other character. But this is the thing, with a longer season, you can establish that, right? With a longer season, you can make her a real. Is she a threat or is she not a threat, or what is she there for? It's they kind of tease you with it, with she's dangerous, and her and Agatha have a history, but it's just not long enough to go into for me to have felt like, all right, I'm vested. So I couldn't get that vested in an individual character. They were all really good characters. Like, for example, like Jennifer Kale. I wanted more of her. Like, can you give me, who is this doctor? What is this? What is your why is this so traumatic for you? You understand? And yeah, that gets me, that's what makes me vested in a show. I can understand for pure entertainment value, for a quick 8-9 episode, why other people enjoyed it. And again, I'm not trying to convince anybody to not like the show. It is just, that's what didn't win me over. I felt like they did a good job. They had the plot of the story, the point of the story, the individual characters were all really good, and there was actually some pretty decent writing. But because you're trying to rush all of these elements into an 8 or 9 episode season, every element to me felt rushed. And so that's what made it hard for me to be like, okay, I like that particular character. But I will say the episode that went into Agatha and and what she did with her son and using her succubus powers to kill all the witches in an attempt to lengthen her son's life. I really that was a really good emotional beat. I think they really did a really good job at that. I mean, Agatha still, she's still a bad character. She's still a bad person, right? She's I still can't root for you. I need you to die. You know what I'm saying? You still did kill a lot of people. So
you're not a good person, but I get it.
I don't want you to make
but
it.
I understand.
But I got you. Right. Yeah,
okay.
Really good emotional beat.
All right, good deal. For me, I would say that I'm very simply coded. The show was called Agatha All Along, not Alice All Along, not Jennifer All Along, not Rio Vidal All Along. The show is about Agatha, and it's her story. The other people are supporting characters, and so I really liked watching Kathryn Hahn from the beginning of the season and seeing the change to the end of the season. That was the person I think actually got the character development, because that was the person who was supposed to get the character. The time that we got with these other people, I feel like everyone kind of agrees. Patti LuPone, she made her impact for the time she was there. Alice may not have made as much impact, and I'm not disagreeing with you there. And I think what you're saying, there was no time to be invested. She didn't make an impact in that time period, but it was also not really her story. It was something that got introduced. And so I do think they just kind of hit the beat, gave you the highlights, gave you the cliff notes, and moved on to the remainder of the story as it pertains to Agatha. So I don't think you're really supposed to be super invested in anybody else. And generally, if I'm saying who are your, was there something that stood out? I feel like the character Rio Vidal, honestly, she kind of stood out because there is something there with Kathryn Hahn. We know that it goes back much, much farther than this event, because if it wasn't for the team trying to say I want to go to the Witch's Road, she would have never seeked out these other witches for a cup. She would have let them be. They would have let her be. Everybody would have stayed to themselves. So even their introduction to one another was kind of forced. And so, I think those beats and those times that they have with the other people, the only person that, Agatha has any history with is in fact Rio. So Rio was the only other person to me that like really stood out and had me interested in if we get a season 2, that's where I'm looking. I want to know, like, how does this play out? Because Agatha's a ghost. Rio hates ghosts. Rio wants the teen. The teen is still alive. Like, these are the conflicts that don't get resolved. Everything else got a nice little pretty bow. And these are the questions that are still left and still remain and could lead us into questions that could be answered in a season 2. The teen, I like the character. I like that it was Billy Maximoff, but unfortunately, and nothing against Joe Locke, he was just the teen. I feel like anybody could have been the teen, and I probably would have felt the same. He did not do a bad job in his role, but nothing that was just like, man, I want to see more of him. Jennifer Kell, hey, I want to see her return in something else just because she's still out there.
Wakanda.
Right. She can return for something else. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got to see her fly off into the sunset. The sunrise with her little pink power. Like, she has her pink back. I was very happy for her. But yeah, I think honestly it was really just watching Agatha, watching her go from this I will murder children to get what I want to let's go find your brother. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I know how much you hate to see a redemption arc for the character, but as you get to see her situation, you come to realize that,
man, I don't trust her.
She's not really evil. She's just born that way. You know what I'm saying? Like, her power is to steal others' power. We do see that maybe she can control it because she doesn't kill the teen. Well, she doesn't kill Billy because at that point he's Billy, he ain't teen no more. She doesn't kill Billy. And, right when he was like, okay, I'm going to heal you, just don't take it all, please. And I'm just like, oh, man, they about to kill Billy. You know what I'm saying? Like, but then, of course, it's like, that's that idea that they'll kill off anybody. And so I was like, why not? But, she was able to cut it off and her return as a ghost. I like the way all that played out. As far as favorite scene, I think the entirety of the final episode, I didn't like that it ended in episode 8. And then we got this other episode, or was it episode 7? And then we got this other episode. That very last episode, although it like explained everything, that was like the first time I watched Christopher Nolan's Memento. The moment you have that realization of what, like Teresa said, when you're like, wait, the song, that means that she was, and then you go back and if like, now that you know the story, if you do go back and rewatch, all the clues are there. The look of shock on her face when they actually have a door. When she walks around every room she's in, she's just like looking around and nervous. She doesn't want to drink anything. She doesn't want to touch anything. She's been in a hex before. She knows immediately, like she's aware when no one else is, who this kid is because she's just been through this exact thing. Watching it with the information, it does view differently than watching it without. And I think if we had gotten that very last episode
first,
if we had gotten it first, I think it would have been too big a reveal. But I think if we had gotten that episode right before the last episode, we all could have been putting connecting the dots and figuring out and realizing that Billy was the one that created the road and that the song was never written. Like, it probably would have felt more aha, as opposed to, like Jeff said, the gamble of forcing a reboot. Because it was when the series ended, he turns around and you're like, I thought that was it. And then there's like a whole ass episode after that. And that very final episode felt very prequel. And I was like watching it the entire time, arms folded, like this episode, we needed this soon.
It felt like the afterword in a book. And it's like,
right.
It's like in high school, I don't read that.
It needed to be, I feel like
That's
it would
not
have
on the
had more,
test.
I feel like it would have had more impact had it been a part of the story. And so I think having, maybe shifting some stuff around and having all of that play out right before the final episode would have put a little bit more impact on the final episode. So, Brandon, when you said that the ending kind of fell flat, I feel like we got an ending and then we got a real ending, but the real ending should have come as the ending so that the actual ending could have been the real ending. It's like they did the ending and then felt like no one was going to like it, so they recorded another episode to explain it. And
Nah, it was the Wizard of Oz thing. Like it ended, but it was really a dream, and you were there, and you were there.
yeah, and I mean all of the connections, and there are a ton of like Easter egg break moon phases and Wizard of
Man, I
Oz.
ain't
Like,
watching none of that crap. It's
I
too
mean,
much.
it's
Jeez
Special
Louise.
shout out to Ralph Bonner and the people of the town.
yeah. Those cameos were pretty cool. Like those.
I like how the townspeople was like, "Is this happening again? Like,
That one black dude,
are we
bro.
doing?
But why are
You gotta
y'all
doing this
move,
like?
dog.
again?"
Yeah, I would not still be in Westview. That's
Hell
me.
no. Ain't no way.
But you know, like at
I'd
least
have
move
burnt
to
that house
Eastview.
down for the insurance money.
I'm trying to tell you.
Would have had a class action suit against Shield. Like you gotta move all of us, player.
Right.
I'm
Sorry,
telling
gotta pay up.
everything.
Sorry, gotta pay up.
I'm telling everything. I'm going on CNN. I'm going on all the channels.
So, second season. I'll let anybody take this one. Do you think this show needs a second season? And what would you like to get from a second season?
Well, I'm going to shock you all and go first.
Okay. All right.
Excuse me.
The High Priestess face up. It's on you.
My suggestion, if I could do it, would be to do like not necessarily a second season because I don't really know where they would go with that. But the way you had WandaVision and then you had Agatha in WandaVision, and so we moved from WandaVision to it was Agatha All Along. My suggestion would be to move from Agatha All Along to a show that focused on Jen Kale, a whole different show about Jen Kale. And I know Wiccan is, supposed to be your big character or whatever, but I don't really care about him like that. I don't want to see no whole nother show with him. If he might be a young Avenger or whatever, but that's fine. But I don't care enough for the show to be about him. I would much rather. Now, do I think it's going to happen? Absolutely not. I would much rather see a show about Jen Kale.
Yeah. I think we have enough opening to do the backstory portion, explain the binding that happened but didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Special guest appearance by Catherine Hahn to actually do the binding portion of it. Yeah, I could rock with that.
And the way they talked about Scarlet Witch in Agatha,
yeah,
you could have talk about or invite the ghost or whatever of Agatha into whatever this Jen Kale show is.
And she's got her pink back. So I mean, you could do some modern stuff as well. So yeah, I'm with it. That is like that. Okay. Who else? What season 2? Yay, nay, Jeff, I saw you with the thumbs down. Good on the one season. Stories told. Brandy with thumbs down. RG clearly doesn't want another season of this.
Right.
I have
RG with 2 thumbs down.
RG didn't want this season.
Right. Like,
For
He
real.
wants a time
more the
machine
same.
to go back.
Good.
There you go.
I gotcha. So, honestly, I think the story that was being told got told. I don't think there's really anything else they need to do. Hell, if nothing else, Agatha's a ghost. So what is Agatha season 2 gonna be? Her haunting? I don't
Making
need
her
that.
not a ghost anymore.
Yeah, like if they do anything else with Agatha, honestly, it needs to be something that relates more towards Billy and Wanda. I feel like Agatha's story was told very well. For the brief episodes we got, I think that story's told. I don't really think there's anything else there. As far as finding Tommy, Vision Quest is still in production. Want to do something with it there. Let Billy show up in Vision Quest, have a quick little family reunion. You got Billy, you got Tommy, you got Vision. If Young Avengers ever gets made, since they have not said, yes, we're making.
It's getting made.
They got 3 characters. They got 3 characters in the book they can use.
Too
so.
many. It's too many.
They've got. I mean, technically, they've got Isaiah Bradley. They've got Cassie Lang. They've got Hawkeye. They've got Kamala Khan. They've got Billy, who's going to find Tommy. I really hope they don't
They got
use
Hulk
Sakaar. But no, see, I was just saying, I really hope they don't use.
They finna use him.
Nah,
Why?
I mean they'll probably fix it up and make it look better, but I doubt they'll.
Yeah, they ain't put all the money into him on She-Hulk.
True. I mean, but if they bring, it's just that since that was his name there, technically those are two different people. But if Marvel wants to, the MCU television wants to mash it up and merge that into a single character, I'm for it. They have all of the characters to do a Young Avengers, and technically, if they do a Young Avengers, they can do the Children's Crusade story, and they can go and look for Wanda, so that Billy and Tommy can find their mom. It's all right there. How do you make that work? I'll leave that to Marvel to decide.
America Chavez.
There you go. Hop into the multiverse. They'll go and find a different version, a variant, only to find out that the actual Wanda used her red to move into the body of. You're not gonna write the story for them. They need to do their job. I'm with you there, RG. We're gonna let them do their job.
They're gonna go to the X-Men universe.
Oh, and get that Wanda, right? With
I
the
want a
other
second
kids from-
season. I do. But
Okay. What would you expect from a second?
I like Teresa's idea. I do. I hadn't even thought about it until just now, but I really do like that idea because I thought that it was very interesting how they talked about her binding.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like they were like, well, yeah, this happened and this is why I bound you. It was some guy paid me and I just did. So were you out here bounty hunting as a witch? Like, that wasn't anything that they talked about the whole entirety of the show. They talked about how she would get the witches and lie to them about the witches' role so she'd get their powers. But they didn't say anything about who was paying her to go out and do things like that to other witches. So I think it would be really interesting to know that story just now.
Yeah.
It's just like,
and I'm curious just because when I did my rewatch, one of the things I noticed is there's two different interactions with Jen talking about her binding and when Jen talks to Agatha about her binding. And the first time Jen mentions her binding, Agatha's outside talking to, at the time, she's out there talking to Billy. So she doesn't know when the binding took place and how all of that played out. Then later on, when it's just the three of them and she says something about the binding, she's just kind of like, oh, yeah. And she's very, very candid, very casual and whatnot. And she was like, oh, that was you. But there was a conversation they had earlier when she clearly states, like, I've done a lot of bad things, but I always left you alone because I respected the work you were doing. I wonder if, in fact, she was actually bound or if it was just all in her head and she had her magic the entire time, which is why I am all on board for doing a spinoff of a spinoff. And we need to dive into Jennifer Kale because it feels like, and I don't, I'm not a master of the occult. So please, somebody in the comments, let me know if it works like this. But it seems like if she was going to bind her, she would know that she was binding her.
But didn't they kind of allude to that at the end?
Yeah.
She said that
she
said the man paid her to show him how to do it.
I think subtitles.
I think that's what I remember him.
It was something about the man. The man paid her to either do it or show him or whatever. But it wasn't like she sought out to hurt her. It was something else going on that it resulted in whatever happened to her. So I just would be interested.
It's just one of those things where I look at Agatha, and Agatha is, of course, she's one of those people that knows what to say to motivate people to do the things she wants. And if we're stuck and you have magic and you just have to get out of your head, I can push your buttons to make you snap out and do what I need you to. Because that's how she's made everybody attack her in the past. And that's how she can then drain. So I feel, and that's why I really have to go back, turn on the subtitles and really try to catch how the binding took place, because I honestly just thought the way I read and interpreted it was Jennifer was never actually bound, but she thought she was bound. So what she did was she gave her something to be angry with, to do the magic necessary to unbind herself.
And and I got that from somewhere too. And like I said, I'm real upfront with mine. I don't catch a whole lot. Yeah. I don't catch a lot of details. But so since I kind of got that, I'm thinking it was really there. That she wasn't really bound. It was really all in her mind. Because there at the end, when she was doing that last spell, it's like she kept repeating it and she kept repeating it. But the more she thought about it and the more she meant it, it was when it actually worked. So it's like the more emotion she put into it, she was just breaking her own barrier, breaking through her own barrier,
Right.
and she wasn't really bound.
I don't know.
I read that completely different.
I mean, and that's not to say that I'm right and you're wrong.
No, I'm saying
Right.
I was saying it's interesting.
That's
Yeah.
the
But that's
perspective.
as much as I want to disagree with RG, what he was saying is it's his interpretation. He didn't get enough character development, whereas I did. So I can't tell him he's wrong.
Yeah.
Because that's just, that's the way he watched the show. And I can respect that. I don't necessarily want to hear it, but I respect it.
I mean, since he gives credit when credit is due and he recognizes the difference, it's not like he just doesn't like it because he doesn't like it. There's always
wasn't an instant hate.
Justifiable reason.
Just being a hater. Even
Yeah,
though
Not this time.
No, not this time.
So, well, I tell you what, folks, let us know in the comments. What do you think? Did Jennifer actually get bound by Agatha, or was it all in her head? Would you like to see a season 2? Let us know who your favorite character was, or what was your favorite scene. We hope you've enjoyed the discussion we've had as we've talked about Agatha all along. For RG, Teresa, Brandy, Jeffrey, I'm LD Geek Sam, and we are out of here. Peace.